Take a look at this. This is a gold bangle that I received when I was very, very young, less than a year old. And if you can imagine a baby's hands, the wrist was so easy that when you tried to slide this thing in, it was just huge. You know, you looked, how could this baby's wrist ever fully fill it out? And yet today, at 37, if I was to take this bangle and try to slip it through my wrist right now, we see it really doesn't get very far. It looks pretty, but I can't really do anything with it right now. Sounds obvious. And yet, for many, many people, they are currently in a state where in their professional lives, this is exactly what they're doing in terms of their career prospects and where they're going to go next. They have a set of gold handcuffs, essentially, that are keeping them locked in a place that shouldn't be, that they've outgrown, ultimately. So why does that happen? And what can we do about it? In my years of experience working with job seekers of every stripe, executives on down, I've seen people at every stage of their careers, and I've seen them deal successfully and sometimes unsuccessfully with challenges along that way. Here are three of the biggest reasons why you would get stuck in something that you've really outgrown. Number one, all right, let's just get this out of the way. Salary. A lot of people out there are working jobs, stuck in positions that they know they can do more of, but they feel, and they use the excuse when the doubts start coming in of, well, you know, I make X amount more than the average range in my industry. Or, you know, I would go somewhere else, but the money's so good right now that I'm definitely going to take a career, you know, a salary cut if I move into another area. First of all, when it comes to the latter, how do you know that? Are you some kind of hiring expert? You just instantly know what all the offers you're going to get out there are going to be? No, you don't. You're using that as an excuse to accept a situation that you know doesn't work for you anymore. But just regardless of that, can we just agree that there's more to your career than just the money piece? I mean, there are people out there who are working jobs that make them want to put a gun to their heads and pull the trigger, but they stick in it because the money's so good. So let me just pause right here and say, if salary ultimately is the only thing that you care about, if you feel that the most that you can contribute in this career that is going to eat up a gigantic amount of your life is just money, you're just in it for the money, nothing else matters than the money, and you're making a lot of money, shut this video off, okay? Because my message is not going to be heard by you, all right? So for anyone else who's listening, who knows that the salary piece is just one part of it, you have to understand that you can't use a higher than average salary as an excuse not to actively be looking at and pursuing and seeing jobs outside of your comfort zone in other areas, because you don't know what it's going to be. You don't know what the shakeup of that is going to be. And a lot of people, by the way, will take minor salary cuts to make a major change in their industry. Now they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars more that they wouldn't have had they not made that. So a lot of times, even in the event that you have to take a slight salary cut to find a more fulfilling route, it's an investment in longer-term success, longer-term profitability, and yes, cash in your pocket. So salary is definitely one of the major ones. Another one, which really always surprises me, is misguided loyalty. There's a lot of people out there who feel, and it's not really a bad thing, I guess, but they feel like, I've given a lot to this company has given a lot to me. They've enabled me to grow, they've done these things, or the company just has a high public awareness factor. They're, a quote-unquote tier 1 company. And so when I think about finding something better or finding something that's a step up for what I'm doing, I just shut that thinking down, because I say to myself, I'm a part of this company. I've had a real hand in making them succeed. And you know what? I get that, and that's a good feeling to have. But when it comes to your career, the only people that you have ultimate loyalty to is yourself, your family. That's it. You are the captain of that ship, and you make sure you know where it's going to go. And ultimately, any place that can fire you or let you go if the wrong turn of the dice happens, or the situation changes, or you're just made redundant, or whatever it is, you can't give them your loyalty. You can give them your excellence. You can give them every ounce of performance that you have within the context of what you're doing, and make sure that they respect you as a valued contributor. But you don't own the company, all right? And you certainly don't own or have to accept taking less than what you're worth, or tapping down on your career potential, which requires moves. No company is worth that. I don't care what company you're part of. No company is worth that. So again, if loyalty shuts down the doubts that you naturally have in your mind about finding something better, take that off the table, okay? You got to look at it, at least temporarily, from the point of view of a mercenary. All right, what's the best outcome for you? You got to be ruthless about that if you're going to get really good results there. So salary, loyalty, and then the last one is just fear. It's simple fear. It's the fear of the unknown, the fear of leaving something comfortable, or if it's not comfortable, even if you're being challenged, the fear of a known challenge, a known arena that you're working in. And for a lot of people, and God knows I've had that experience too, change is hard, and you don't know, right? When you start exploring opportunities, you don't know what it's going to look like, right? So it's total fear. It's basically, it feels like you're leaving something sure for something that is really not sure, and you don't know what's going to happen with it. So I get that, and I wanted to share a quick story with you. The scariest moment I ever had in my life, professionally or otherwise, in '06, I moved from Canada, Montreal, to start over, essentially, in New York City. No visa, nothing except a couple of friends, no apartment, no cell phone, no bank account, nothing. I moved with nothing. I had a dream. I had a book I wanted to get published. I had big goals about starting a life there, and I just love the U.S. I mean, it's always certainly felt like my home. So I had that fire burning in me. But can you imagine the amount of fear that comes with something like that? I would be sleeping in a futon that was rickety and on the verge of breaking, and I'd wake up with the cold sweat every morning, feeling that pressure and knowing that I had to make this work. I worked jobs off of Craigslist. I worked manual working jobs. I took writing for hire gigs, paying next to nothing. I worked under the table wherever I could, wherever I could. I did whatever I had to do to make it work. So is that fear? Of course. Of course it's fear. It's terror, actually. But when I look at my life now, I'm happily married. I have 2 kids. I have a thriving business. I've got amazing people that I can call on, people I've worked with, people I admire, heroes. This whole world has emerged that never would have begun if I didn't hop on that Greyhound bus that many years ago and take a chance on myself and risk myself. And that's the thing that you have to understand, is it's not about moving from security to fear. It's about betting on yourself. And you've got to bet on yourself. You've got to bet everything on yourself. Because who else is going to? If you don't do that first, no one will. So that's the thing, salary and the false ego that it gives you of saying, well, I'm making more, when you don't know. You could be making a move, and 5 years from now you could be making an order of magnitude more. Salary, misguided loyalty of thinking that somehow the company and the company's fortunes are your fortunes. They are not. And finally, this simple fear of not looking at it in terms of, really, I'm betting on myself, and I will embrace the fear, because on the other side of that is a better life for myself. These are the 3 things that really, really hit people. So if you're one of those people, and you're dealing with one or several or some of the ones that I haven't even mentioned with regards to your career, here's what I suggest you do, okay? Really quick. Number 1, dig deep to find your real baseline. So what I do, and it sounds ludicrously simple, but you got to do it, I think, is to sit down and do a real pros and cons list of your current position and your current career. Write down everything, and I mean, spend some real time on it. Do some soul searching. Write down every pro, every con, everything that you like, everything that you don't like, every fear that you've had, every problem, big or small. You want to get it all on one page. Just write it all down. And if you're having trouble with that, here's a little tip that I use. Go to your spouse and ask him or her, what are the pros and cons of my job? What are the ones that distress you? What are the problems? What are the negatives that it has on my family? Because you're going to get some honest answers real fast when you do that. Believe me, I know. So do that. So find your baseline, right? Really dig deep to find that. And now that you have that baseline, now that you've been thinking about it, here's what I want you to do. Big mistake people make. They get to a point where they feel very dissatisfied with where they're at. And from that dissatisfaction point of view and mindset, they start looking for positions. Well, let me ask you something. If you're already upset, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling down, you're feeling scared, do you really think that you're in a headspace to find really amazing opportunities? Really? I mean, do you think that's going to happen? Or will you just maybe send some feelers out there, get some not so good feedback, or perceive it as not so good, and then say, screw it. I was right. I'm just going to put this off for another year. Please don't put it off for another year. Okay? If you're feeling this, please, please, please take some kind of action. And what I say to you is, once you've had your baseline, you've written out the pros and cons and all that, you found your baseline, instead of jumping from that right into looking at new opportunities, you need to feed inspiration first. You need to get fired up and excited. And the best way to do that is not to start talking with the same Tom, Dick, and Harrys that are in your office or in your industry. Get away from the usual suspects. Start looking at people, friends that you admire, people that you admire who have nothing to do with what you're doing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, zero relationship with it. And I want you to call them up. I want you to take them out for coffee. I want you to take them out for a nice, delicious meal with some good glasses of wine where you're really enjoying yourself. And I want you to just talk to them about what they do. That's it. No ulterior motive. Nothing like, hey, I'm looking for a job. None of that. No. Be magnanimous. Be huge of spirit. And be there from a point of view of saying, can I learn about what you do? Because just tell me. I just want to get, I want to know, I want to learn, I want to see what's out there. So start feeding that well, start meeting with people, talking with people, and this should be a pleasurable, fun thing, I don't need much of an excuse to go to a restaurant. Like, I'll do it on the tiniest of provocations. So do that. Start feeding the well. Start thinking, start reading about stuff. I would recommend also taking a day off and doing what's called a library date, where shut off your phone, shut off your computer, again, shut off the usual suspects, go to the library, read some books, figure out what's going on in different industries, get excited, follow your passions, see where that might lead without any judgments, without any expectations or pressure yet. Just start feeding up the well of inspiration, and doing that first is really getting fired up first is essential, because you need to keep that flame burning as you progress and start, maybe hiring an expert to guide you in this, or taking it on yourself and start actively kind of getting into that mode of pursuing new things. But you got to do that. Number one, identify the things that are really holding you back. Identify these things that you've really outgrown. Find your baseline, do a pros and cons list, dig deep, ask your spouse what is working, what's not about your career, and then feed the well. Feed the well, feed the well, get inspired. Talk to people who have nothing to do with your industry. Talk to people who you respect, who you admire, who have done amazing things in their lives, and get really fired up about it. And now you're going to be at a point to start thinking about what that next step is. So thank you very, very much for listening. If you're at this point in this video, let me just take the blinders off and say you probably are one of those ambitious, hungry people that I work with and I love to see succeed. So kudos to you for that. Do this advice. Play this video again if you're in this mode. And I do encourage you to check me out at a site called upgradeyourjob.com, where you can sign up for my private mailing list and get access to my 6-point checklist for landing a 6-figure job. Some great tips in there that guaranteed you're not using right now. So check that out. And thank you for learning with me. Have a great day. I'll talk to you guys soon.